an céad cainteoréile cócheannar na sac Dems an teachta Roisin Shortall le dul.
Taoiseach, I want to ask you some questions this morning about the vaccine programme. And there's two aspects of it that I'm just concerned about. Obviously, the vaccines provide great hope for people. I think the vast majority of people are really looking forward to getting them and are very keen to know when they're likely to receive the vaccine. And for that reason, I think we need to improve the data that's available. Many of us have been looking to the Minister for Health to provide daily figures in relation to the performance of the vaccine programme. And that's really important. I know you yourself and the Minister have said that we're delivering the vaccines, we're getting them out, administering them as quickly as they arrive. But there's no way of gauging that. While we're getting the daily figures for the administration of the vaccine, the other side of that equation in relation to the number of vaccines that have arrived in this country is not available. And the only data that is available in relation to vaccine deliveries here comes from the Path Ahead document, and there's a table set out there. So they're the only official figures we have for the forecasted deliveries. And those figures would indicate that there's a very substantial gap between the numbers of vaccines forecasted to be delivered here and the number that are actually being administered. Now, a very, very substantial gap. More than 2/3 in relation to AstraZeneca would seem not to have been administered. In relation to Moderna, 4/5 of those haven't been administered yet, and the number is smaller in relation to Pfizer. So, Taoiseach, I want to ask you if you can provide an explanation for that big gap and what is happening those expected vaccines that we were told would be delivered. I'm talking about the month of February in particular, because we have all of the figures, the daily figures for the vaccines administered. So can you explain that? If you can't do it today, can you get a note, please, on it? But will you commit to publishing daily figures in relation to the numbers of doses received in this country, the numbers that are available for vaccination and the number of doses that have been administered? I think it's really important to have all of that data on a daily basis if we are to be able to gauge the performance of the programme. And I think that's really important from the point of view of transparency and accountability, that we can measure the performance of the programme. That's not possible at the moment. So I'd appreciate your information.
Well, first of all, thank the Deputy for raising the issue, and without question, the vaccine programme and the rollout of it is a critical part of the wider strategy to deal with the pandemic. And just want to say that the people of Ireland are adhering to the guidelines and the restrictions. The vast majority are, and that's having an impact in getting the hospitals and ICU numbers down, getting community transmission down, as the vaccination programme is being rolled out. And the National Task Force, is publishing data, and the HSE is publishing data in relation to vaccinations. The key issue is ongoing supply issues. There are three companies essentially: AstraZeneca, Pfizer-BioNTech, and Moderna. And there have been bumps along the way, without question, particularly most recently, as the chair of the task force said last Saturday, in relation to a shortfall last week from AstraZeneca, which they believe will be made up in the next week and will come through. So there has been issues around supply, and that was discussed at the European Council meeting, where there was a dedicated meeting on Thursday last on European-wide vaccination. It seems to me the three big continents, like China, America and Europe, are the major production centres for vaccines, and supply is the issue across the board, and Europe has appointed a commissioner to deal with removing bottlenecks in terms of supplies. In the Irish context, we are administering that which we are getting in. I will revert back to the task force in relation to the issues that you raised, and there's no difficulty in them going through with you the situation. But I think obviously we had to reconfigure in terms of the decision by NIAC in relation to AstraZeneca and its application to, the decision that we would do Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna for the over 85s and over 70s and AstraZeneca below that. So that meant reconfiguring through the GP network, and there can be a lag in terms of data coming back into the centre as a result of that. But essentially, that which we are getting in, we are administering, bar there is some kept back in terms of second doses.
Thank you. The figures that are available now indicate we are not administering what is coming in. Now, maybe you need to update your figures in relation to what's coming in, but it's really important that you do that so that there is transparency about this. And it's not a matter of giving me the figures. These are figures which should be publicly available. And it's only when you are transparent about this that people will have confidence that the programme is running well. So I would appeal to you again to make those figures available, or to update whatever figures are available in relation to the number of vaccines that have been received into this country. And the other point I would just make to you, Taoiseach, is that the level of delivery at the moment, we all accept that there's fluctuations in supply, but the level of delivery at the moment is averaging at about 12,000. Okay, and we need to up that by about nearly 4 times that if we're to be ready for the rollout programme on a mass basis. And that's why we need to have a published plan in relation to how you're going to ramp up to that level so that you can actually get the vaccines out as quickly as they arrive.
Currently, the figures that have been released, we're above the EU average with 8.3 doses administered per 100 of our population. For Q1, again, as of the 27th of February, 435,895 COVID-19 vaccines have been administered. 294,550 people have received their first dose, and 141,345 people had received their second dose. We're on target to substantially administer dose 1 to 72,000 over 85s by the end of the first week of March. And arrangements are being made to vaccinate homebound elderly people who, in conjunction with GPs and local community teams, and then that will be followed with the 80 to 84 sub-cohort. There are 1,200 GP practices have participated in the vaccine programme by the end of this week. Yes, I know that. Yeah, and we are, as we receive them within a week. The chairman has been publicly saying this.
Okay,
the chairman, Brindley Cra, has said this publicly on a number of occasions. Paul Reid has said a number of occasions. We have said as soon as we get vaccines in, the aim is to use the vaccines within the week.